Hi everyone and welcome to today's video. I hope everyone is doing well. I've got some really magical crafts for you today. I really hope that you enjoy. So first off, I'm just in my garden and you know I love to use moss, so here I am just taking some moss so that I can use in the next craft. So I've taken this wooden board which will basically be the base of my project, and then I'm taking the moss that I collected and I'm sticking it down with some hot glue. So I always like to make whimsical projects, and I also like a bit of vintage in there too. So I've got this book and I'm just going to open it in half and place it down as I have. Then I've got this beautiful elf door. I wanted to make it a bit more magical. So I've got these fairy lights and I'm going to add them inside the door. First we're just going to thread that wire onto the book so you've got access from the back. Then I'm going to take my hot glue to add it to the door itself so the inner part will look like it's glowing, like the light is actually on. So I'm keeping the door ajar just enough so that you don't see the fairy lights and it remains hidden, but you still see that beautiful warm glow. And here it is, just turning it on and having a look, making sure I'm happy. I've got this beautiful gold mushroom, so I wanted to add that inside. I did have a play off camera with a few other things, but I really liked this, so I just stuck it down with my hot glue. And then I moved on to adding some trees, and I've got 3 different lengths, so I did want a bit of variation. And they're also a little bit different in shade as well. So I took my hot glue and added the biggest one, and then the medium, and then finished with the smallest. I then took this butterfly. I really liked it because I felt like it will just make that book a little bit more whimsical and the project as a whole, and tie in with a little bit of that vintage theme as well. Then I took this faux present and I went with the gold shade just to match the mushroom, and I added that in. Now you don't really have to do this, but I wanted to go for a little bit more magic, so I took my hot glue and I added a little bit of glue to the top of the door. Then I took this glitter. I want it to look like snow but a little bit more whimsical. I mean, snow is whimsical and it does glisten, so yeah, that's probably what I was going for. And I just added that, making sure that I cover all of the glue and the top of the door. I was going to go with a small piece originally, then I decided I need to add a little bit more so it looks like the snow is coming down a little bit. So I went and added that and went in with the glitter as well. And then I decided to make it a little bit more longer so it covers the whole length of the door. Then I decided I want to do the same technique on the inner door as well. Now we're going to start working on the top, and this is really easy. We're just going to take that moss that I collected earlier, sticking it down with some hot glue, and you can remove this. I like it, I like to keep it natural, so it's got little bits of twigs in there, but you can remove them if you just want the moss itself. So I'm just making sure to cover the entire top part of the book, and then I'm going in with my final trick, the snow spray. So here's the final project. I am so happy with it. I can't believe how fun this was to make, and it's so easy and inexpensive as well, but look at it. I really love it personally. I think it's so magical, cute at the same time, and really unique. But let me know what you think of it and if you'll be making this yourself, and if you do you make it to sell, do you make it to gift, or just as decor? Alright, so now on to DIY number 2. This one is definitely quick, easy, inexpensive, but it really makes a great handmade gift and something that you can make to sell as well. So I'm just taking some tissue paper to stuff inside the mug so it gets rid of all of that empty space that we don't need. And now you want to create a base, something that you can stick everything else on top of, and also to cover the tissue paper. I'm going for moss again, but you can use raffia, shredded paper. Then I'm gluing the nutcracker inside, right in the center of the mug. I think this is probably the first time that I've used a nutcracker in my crafts. I don't know, I'm not really fond of them. But yeah, you can use anything else as well. You can take a Santa if you want to do like a polar bear or a penguin, a snowman. Then I added the tree behind the nutcracker as you saw, and then the candy cane. I just removed that little hoop at the top before sticking it in on the side. And then I'm taking this lamppost. I honestly really find lampposts so whimsical and magical. I really like them, and miniature is just even more magical. So I wanted it to look like the light was on, and to achieve that I just took this orange marker and coloured in all of the glass. I had this miniature sleigh and I thought that would look great in that area, and I wanted to add these miniature gifts. I think 3 looked right, so I just positioned them how I liked and I added them on top. I can glue them, but I just decided not to because I want to be able to reuse them for other crafts. I wanted to make sure that I cover any empty gaps, so I took the snowy small pine cones as you saw, and then these red berries, and I glued them in place. And then to finalize, I took this pine cone and added it to the side. There's one little gap there, but I did that same snowy technique just to add that glisten and shimmer, and I took my hot glue and then went in with the glitter. So here's the final project. I think it came out wonderfully, and again I really enjoyed making it. I can't help but think something like this would be so expensive if you bought it as is in a store. Before we get into the final project for today, I wanted to let you all know that this is part of a Christmas collaboration. There's more Christmas ideas for you to enjoy in a playlist linked in my description box and pinned comments, so please do check it out once you're done watching my video. For today's final craft, you're going to need an embroidery hoop. I have this one here. It's quite small in size, and a big stick. You want to make sure it's quite a thick stick. So I got hubby's help to cut it down to size, and then I wanted to remove these silver bits at the end, but I really couldn't manage to do that, so I decided to take my pliers and just bend them as far back as I can. And I actually needed these in the end because it gives it something to stick to on the wood anyway. So then I took my hot glue, added that to the silver pieces as you saw, and then stuck it down in the centre. I just made sure to hold it until it's set. Then I took 3 trees, 2 of the same colour and 1 a different colour, because I want that one to go in the middle. I wanted to remove the base, which usually is easy, but for some reason on these trees it was so difficult to remove these, but I got there in the end. So I took all 3 and glued them down to the base of the embroidery hoop. I then took this lovely rustic farmhouse bow and added that to the top of the embroidery hoop. I felt like something was missing, so I remembered that lovely technique with the faux snow that I did in the previous project, and I went in with the hot glue and the glitter as well to do the same thing, just doing that all over the top of the wreath in between where the bow was. Then I took some greenery. This was from a wreath, and I really like it because it's snowy. It's already got that winter effect. I took my pliers and just cut them into 4 so that I can decorate the bottom where the stick is, and just to kind of frame the wreath nicely. Then I took this trio of pine cones and I left them on the stick as is and just hot glued them down in the centre of the greenery. I added my snowy effect on both sides of the stick, just using the same process of the hot glue and glitter. I felt like my pine cones needed a little bit more detail, so I wanted them to look snowy. The way that I do this is I take this acrylic painter pen and I just added some white to the tips that you can see there. And it's really easy to do, but it does make a difference, I think. Now I was supposed to end there, but I just wasn't happy. I felt like it was maybe a bit too basic. I also didn't really like how uniform those 3 trees looked, so I thought I'm going to add something to the back, and I found these and I thought that they were perfect, these wooden houses. So I did the same technique with the glue and the glitter, but I also went in with the acrylic painter just to make it look more like snow on the top, and then I took another house and I glued it to the side of the other house. And then again I was supposed to be done, but no, something was still missing. So I carried on building and I took another house and added that to the bottom. I also felt like the back was still lacking, so I added another house, and I also went in with the acrylic painter pen to add the snow to the tops of both houses. I wanted that magic again, that glistening snow effect, so I added that to both of those houses as well, just to match all the other houses and the top of the wreath. Am I done yet? Not quite. I still felt like something was missing. I feel like that's all I've been saying on this project, but yeah, I went in with a smaller tree on either side of the wreath. I felt like that looked right. I just felt like there was too many gaps there, and also it just broke up the uniform tree look that I still wasn't happy with. And now I can say I'm definitely happy with it, finally. Maybe I'm a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to my crafts, I don't know. So that's all of today's projects. Let me know your favourite down below in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more inspiration. And don't forget to check the playlist as well that I mentioned earlier. Lots more ideas for you there to enjoy. I actually had so much fun crafting today, which is really nice because that's the whole point. I really hope that you have enjoyed watching too. Take care. Bye.